Good afternoon, everyone. I'm GoLocal Live contributor Chelsea Gay here in our downtown Providence studio, ready to talk about current events and everything that's happening in Rhode Island and beyond. And our first guest today, we have Elizabeth Heaton from Bright Horizons College Coach. She is the vice president and a former college admissions officer as well. And in the wake of last week's Operation Varsity Blues, we want to get an update on everything that's going on in that space. We had dozens conspiring to get their kids into universities, 50 people involved. It's a huge story. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us fresh off your Good Morning America interview. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us as well.
Absolutely. I love Providence, and I'd love to be on the show, so thanks for having me.
Excellent. So if you can give our viewers just sort of a quick overview, have there been any new developments over the past week? I know it's easy to kind of lose track with everything that's coming out, but in terms of your world, the college enrollment admissions world, what has conspired over this past week in this scandal?
Yeah, well, basically the biggest thing to hit this space in some time. I actually can't think of something this big, this newsworthy, or that at least has been covered this much in the news in the 17 years that I've been working in this space. Basically what has happened is, some people were arrested. I mean, Felicity Huffman was arrested with guns drawn over some work that they were doing, they were paying someone to do, where they were essentially lying, bribing, cheating, and breaking the law to get their kids in to the schools that they had decided they really needed to go to, or to get them the test scores that they decided their kids weren't capable of getting on their own, to get them into the schools they really thought their kids should go to. There's so much wrong with this that it almost makes my head explode. I think what has been probably for me just the most shocking part of this was just the lengths that people went to and just the sheer audacity of just not even really, I know this is probably not right, but we're going to do it anyway. It's been a little mind-boggling.
And so, you're very familiar with the process of admissions and also working with Bright Horizons College Coach. Is the process as it stands now effective because something like this happened, or is it broken at this point?
Yeah, I really don't think it's broken. When I was an admissions officer, I worked at the University of Pennsylvania, so definitely at one of those very selective schools that people do tend to really want to go to. Yep. I took my role as an admissions officer very seriously. I knew that I had people's lives in my hands when I was reading a file, and I know that all of my colleagues did. And even though I'm no longer in admissions reading those files and making admit decisions, I still do know people in that world, and all of my former colleagues are all doing work similar to what I do, whether they're doing that in a school setting or doing it the way that I do it. And the commonality with all of us is just that this is really important work, and it's notable that no one in admissions was implicated in this. This was all sort of perpetrated on the admissions offices and not by the admissions offices. And the other really important thing to note here is that we are talking about the tiniest percentage of colleges Absolutely. Here in this country, right? And we're also talking about 33 families who did this. Mm-hmm. So is it still really, really, really difficult to get into these highly selective schools? Of course it is, but the process as it is designed does still yield a really interesting class at all of these schools every year. And then there are 80% of the colleges in this country who are accepting more than 50% of their applicants. So they are welcoming far more students to their campuses than they are turning away.
Absolutely.
So I think so long as you're not trying to subvert the process does actually still work.
Okay. And so, it is these sort of, as you said, more tougher to get into schools, Yale, Stanford, USC, that are wrapped up in this, but what do you think they need to be doing as a former admissions officer? What do you think those schools need to be doing in this situation in terms of, I know that they're not directly involved as admissions, but how does the school need to respond in a situation like this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was also an athletics liaison when I was at Penn, so I do have some insight into kind of the recruiting process, a little bit about how that works, mostly from the perspective of as admissions admitting recruited athletes. And I do think what they have likely recognized is that if they thought they had checks and balances there, clearly they didn't have enough checks and balances. Yeah. And so it would be nice to see some more of those. And actually, as I have freely admitted in other conversations that I've had, I wasn't necessarily privy to what might have happened to athletes when they came to campus. So I was part of the process of them being admitted. But once they were on our campus, there may have been oversight that where my dean was paying attention to who was on the who made the teams, who played, but I wasn't necessarily aware of that if it was happening. That doesn't mean it wasn't happening. The other thing that's interesting is that at this level of school, oftentimes the carrot or the bonus for the athlete is you're getting in. You're not necessarily getting a scholarship. You're only, especially at the Ivies, you're just getting a financial aid award if you qualify. Absolutely. That means that that money that helps you afford that school is not tied to you playing on the team. So you could come to campus and say, I know I got here because the coach put in a word for me with admissions, but I've decided I don't really want to play the sport anymore, and then not play.
Got it.
But I think, they would need to be looking for trends. So my hope is that we will see that. The other thing that's really interesting is that there was an article that came out in Higher Ed magazine where they talked to a bunch of different deans about, what they were going to do differently now. And there were a lot of evasions, maybe that's a strong word, but I didn't see a lot of people that really answered the question very directly. But interestingly enough, my alma mater, they have a new dean. It's not the dean I worked under when I was at Penn, but he said he had an idea, which I thought was very interesting, which was that what they might start to do would be to verify the way they do with the FAFSA. So what happens with the FAFSA is, they pull random selection of students and they verify the information. And I think that would be an interesting approach to there's no way to verify that every piece of information you get into an admissions office is real and true and accurate. But you could pull a certain percentage of the applicant pool randomly every year and then spot check those and dig deeper. And that might kind of curb any sort of tendency people might have to lie or exaggerate in their applications.
Of course. So it's something. I mean, there has to be something that's done. And even if it's a small idea, it's gotta help in this situation. And now in terms of the students involved, there's been a lot of back and forth debate on, what should happen. A lot of people are saying they should lose their spot at the college. Do you have an opinion on kind of what you think should happen to those students that are wrapped up in this situation?
Sure. Certainly any student who is in the applicant pool right now who was able to be linked to this, I think should not be admitted.
And I think they have taken that away at this point.
Yeah, certainly I know that USC has publicly said, I think there were 6 students in the applicant pool, they pulled them. And my guess is that every other school out there is combing their applicants to make sure that they're not about to admit one of these kids connected to the scandal. Mm-hmm. The bigger challenge is that we've seen and heard from some of these stories. There was the student who met with an advisor as he was a freshman, and the advisor in the course of the meeting asked him how he was going to balance track with his studies, or, did he have any strategies? And the student said, well, I don't run track. What are you even talking about, right? So
great.
Yeah, exactly. So in that situation, you have a student who is at this school who has no idea that he's there because his parents have falsified information. They did show that for some of these students, the cheating on the standardized test happened after they took it. Yeah. They took it and thought they did well. So that's really tricky. If you have this student, they're enrolled in your campus, they're doing well, do you punish them for something their parents did, or do you allow them to continue out and hope that you are teaching them better ethics? Yeah. It is very tricky.
Yeah, and then there's the point of people that, this went back to 2011. What about those people that have already graduated, that have degrees and licenses and benefited from this? Are you going to take those degrees away? I mean, it gets really tricky at that point. I was hoping you had the answer.
Yeah, I mean, you can take those degrees away. I do think that's really important for our listeners, too. And one of the things that can happen, I was reading an article that said, oddly enough, something like this, when it happens, will sometimes have more people cheating because they say, well, everyone's doing it, so I'm going to do it too. Yeah. But I do think it's important for people to recognize two really important consequences here. The first is that if at any point a school finds that you falsified your information on your application, or you're cheating while you're in college, they can revoke your degree. They can do that 15, 20 years after you have graduated. Almost, schools have this language in their materials, so that's something to be aware of. So in answer to your question, yeah, you could be out there functioning, doing work that you need a degree for, and they could take that degree away from you. Wow. And then I think the other thing is that as a parent, what you're really saying is to your child, not that, yes, you're saying it's okay to cheat, which in and of itself I think we could probably all agree is not ideal. Yeah. What you're also really saying to your child, and I have a 14-year-old son, and so I'm really always cognizant of what am I really saying when I do some things, is that you're not capable. You're not good enough. Your best is not good enough for me. And therefore, I'm going to have to find someone who can be better than you because you can't do it. And I just, what a terrible message to send to my child.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of articles that have come out as a separation from that about the suicide rates in these areas where these kids are, we don't want to go ahead and say we feel terrible for these kids that grew up with this wealthy lifestyle, but you're absolutely right when a parent is saying, I don't really trust you to handle this yourself, I'm going to have someone else do it or pay someone off. I mean, it's really a blow to the ego of the child involved at that point. So
right, ego and confidence and belief in themselves, right? Probably most importantly, if not everyone has kids, but if you're thinking about if your parent had done this to you, how would you feel? I mean, some of these kids are hard to feel sorry for. I might single out Lori Loughlin's daughter.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of press right now, of course.
It's a little tough to feel badly for her. But at the core of all of this is really still people are people, and how just completely devastating it would be to have your name, to know, for everyone around you to know that your parents had to do this so you could go to this school. That can't feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on a more upbeat note, after all this discussion, I want to talk quickly about Bright Horizons College Coach, because you guys are doing some pretty awesome things helping students and families with the college enrollment process in general. So on the positive side, there are a lot of students that are going to apply to college right about now, thinking about where they want to be going to school. What are some things they can do to enhance their, ability to get into these schools, whether they're at the high level like this or, they're going to a state school, et cetera?
Right. I think first and foremost is to recognize that there are more than 3,000 four-year institutions in this country, which means there are a lot of places where you could go and be happy. A lot of options. We don't just have this tiny little subsection, and there's one right in the middle of Providence, but there are a lot of great options right in Rhode Island at a variety of different levels of selectivity. I think my biggest advice is to be authentic and to be just self-aware, and to approach this process more from the perspective of, what am I looking for in my college? What do I want to study? If I don't know what I want to study, then I guess I better look for schools with a lot of different options so that I can change my mind or have my choice of different majors. And be true to yourself. So when you are presenting yourself in your application, don't try to be someone you are not. How can the college determine if you're really the best fit if you are pretending to be someone different? And that inauthenticity does tend to come out in an application where there's something about it that doesn't feel quite right or doesn't feel that compelling. It's often because a student is writing what they think an admissions office wants to hear, or they're trying to be a different student rather than just putting their best self forward in their application. Have a list that's balanced. It's fine to reach and have a couple of schools that maybe you're not sure you're going to get into. But then you want to have some schools where you look a lot like the average accepted applicant. And then you want a couple of schools where you look maybe stronger than the average accepted applicant. So you don't need to be applying to 20 schools. We recommend a range of somewhere between 7 and 9. And I would say that most of the students that I work with, my colleagues work with, maybe apply to maybe as many as 12. And we really do try to pull it back from that. I think those are some of the ways to approach this process, and really from the perspective of how can I make them like me, but do I like them? And hey, this is me. And then I think that results in a much better process and where you get in the end.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all of your insight. Elizabeth Heaton from Bright Horizons and College Coach. We thank you for coming on. We know you love Providence, so we appreciate that, and we hope to stay in touch with you as this develops to kind of see what's happening next, if there's any policy changes. So we appreciate you weighing in on this, and we are going to link to the website for Bright Horizons College Coach in our write-ups so that people can check that out if they're applying this year. It's a great resource for that. So again, thank you for joining us. Guys, we'll be right back in just a couple minutes with our second guest. Thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome back, guys. My second guest today is Mariel Marr, Newport interior designer, realtor, photographer. I don't know, what aren't you? A little bit of everything. And she's convinced she's over-prepared for the show, but I told her that's not possible. So you should tune into this because she's got a ton of great ideas for spring home decor and design, refreshing your home for spring on, you know, not a crazy budget, which I wouldn't expect from someone from Newport. But
I did my best to keep it like budget friendly, but also
I was like, I saw refurbished furniture. What?
Sustainability is big.
So So let's walk through the 2019 trends that you've outlined. I think they're really awesome, and I think our viewers would love to know a little bit more about what they can do this year.
Okay, I did my best to do a little bit of everything because everybody has like different focus that they want with their house. So I did a little bit of everything. The first thing I wanted to talk about, which was something that I've been obsessing about, is the exterior of your home. I know we're talking about inside, but this is one thing I want to address is the exterior of the home. So I've been coming across these properties in Rhode Island that are black and white.
Oh, so cool.
White homes with black trim, and I'm just stunned by them. They're popping up all over Rhode Island, so if you want to give your home like a fresh coat, I would stick with it super simple, black and white. It looks great.
That's amazing. So like a white for your kind of slats, and then the black as the
window, like
windows.
the window trim is black.
Wow.
So you're kind of like switching what people do traditionally, like the white trim windows and the color. Just do white with the black trim, and it really pops, especially in the summer with the greenery and the landscape.
Now, does that work for a specific kind of home? Like if you have a bungalow home, or is it any kind of house that you see?
Any house can pull it off.
Really?
Most homes can pull it off. If it's a small home, I would start small.
Yeah.
It's a large home, it's a big paint job, but.
Yeah, your mansion. Don't do this if you're living in a Newport mansion.
It'll take you a while.
Yeah, right.
And then sticking with paint and exterior color, I do love a good door. I find that I'm driving around town like, I love that door. I love that door.
Yes.
And they're primarily doors that have a pop of color.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been obsessing over peach. I love
That's
the peach
awesome.
door. It just seems welcoming and inviting. But if you're terrified of color, stick with just a good old classic wooden door.
Okay.
It's just a very nice.
Yeah. I love that dark wood door.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks good with good wreath on it during the holidays.
Absolutely.
So we're thinking spring. There are spring wreaths that look really cute too.
Okay. All right.
Yes. I guess when it comes to the interior of the home, right?
Very important.
Earthy interiors are huge right now.
Okay.
They give you just like a sense of calmness, relaxing, especially after a long day.
Are these the colors that we've kind of outlined as?
I brought some colors. I was like in Home Depot earlier, like a total creep on all fours, like looking at all the colors and laying them on the floor.
I love it.
Most of them that I chose were earthy, but right now accent walls have always been huge.
Mm-hmm.
But the half accent wall is kind of where people are going these days. So painting the wall either in half, painting it at diagonal, or just even a little section of the wall people have been doing. So I picked some colors that I thought were kind of in trend right now. This is my peach.
It's a nice door color.
And then this mustard kind of burnt yellow is huge. I was actually walking down to the studio today, and I saw an interior window display with this.
Nice.
My friend actually painted her entire home floor this color.
Wow, that must look awesome.
The other
Bold
popular,
move.
Oh my God. You feel like you're walking on the sun. And then the next was just this kind of soft gray.
I like that. Like the slate kind of. Yeah, it's really pretty.
So accent walls, they're great, but if you feel like you're looking to refresh your entire interior, going with an off-white, like these all probably look the same from where we're standing.
They're not the same.
But once you get this on your wall, there is green, warm, and a cool tone that really offer a really nice touch to your home. But if you're selling your property, this won't overwhelm potential buyers.
Okay.
So this is just a really great palette. So your colored whites, those are the things.
Okay. And you should always paint your home when you're trying to sell it too, because a fresh coat of paint is just, if you've got all scratches on your walls, it doesn't,
believe it or not,
doesn't bode well.
If you've lived in a home long enough, like your living smell starts to stick to the walls. Believe it or not.
You might think you smell good, yeah.
So yeah, if you're trying to sell your home, I would always recommend just giving it a fresh coat, even if it's just the room that people walk into first.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now with those earthy tones, it is easy to do patterns because you've got something that's a little more neutral. So tell me about sort of what's, pattern-wise going to be big this spring.
Patterns are my favorite. I was going to wear like a pattern outfit.
You shouldn't.
With all the
You shouldn't. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good for a camera, no.
With all the patterns that I have on our table right now, I just thought it would be a
Okay.
Okay. So when it comes to patterns, you can find patterns that still fall into that earthy kind of neutral realm.
Okay.
So here are
These
just
are really
some
cool.
that I found. Here's that kind of almost mustard yellow trend. That's
Love that.
Very
And then
much
what would you do with
alive.
this? Like a chair or a pillow or?
So I brought some fabrics because really this could be curtains.
Oh, curtains.
This could be
I always forget about
pillows,
curtains.
A
These are kind of linen-y, too. Nice.
Yes, fresh linens for your bed. These are just really great patterns to inspire you, but also offer a nice pop of style to your home. I love this one.
That's very cool.
That'd be great for a nice big ottoman, nice chair, but also a really great curtain. The other thing, if you find that you don't like painting but love patterns, wallpaper is another great resource, and it's pretty easy. If you're looking for a quick fix, that's affordable, that can be done in a day.
Yeah, people always were scared of wallpaper, but now you can stick it. It's very easy.
Yeah, and again, if you think natural color, it can go with pretty much everything. So this was just a little sample that I found. I thought it was adorable, little mini suns for spring. And again, any of these patterns really go together because they all fall in that kind of natural realm. Or you can do your accent wall with a touch of pattern.
She's styling your home right now, everyone.
I was telling her earlier that I was really just showing stuff that I want to do to a home that I just bought. So be prepared for this to show up all over my Instagram in the next couple weeks.
That's okay. It's nice to see how it works out live because it's scary to do something like this in your home if you're not someone that's a little more style forward. So you do it.
I'm here to help.
Yeah.
I'm here to help. And
you do it. We'll watch.
Also, when it comes to your wall, the last thing that we'll talk about when it comes to your walls is wallpaper, but also textured wallpaper.
Oh, so cool.
This has become huge. We have this chevron pattern. I don't know if you guys can see that. If you open it up, you feel these. They do have a texture. They don't look as impressive, like really small, but when you start putting these all together,
that is very cool.
It offers a really great texture.
Wow.
And just almost like a piece of art in your home. I wouldn't recommend doing this to your entire house. But if you have a nice sitting area or even behind your bed as kind of a backdrop to where you sleep, it's just a really great place to make it even more special.
Love that.
Yes. Of course, I have so much. But
it's okay.
I could talk like 2 hours just
we want to talk
fabrics.
about it. Let's talk plants because that was another big one. And you said something about a plant subscription service, which is you got to tell me about that because I don't know what that is.
Yes. Okay. So I do my best to support local and go to farms and find plants for my home. But if you're busy and you get out of work late and there are plant subscriptions, and I actually just signed up for one for eucalyptus.
Cool.
Because I just like the way it smells. I can flip it upside down and hang it in your shower, so you always feel like you're in a spa. And you can, when they dry out, you can kind of put them around your home for a nice touch of decor.
There's subscriptions for everything out there.
Yes, you can go online. I think it's eucalyptusfarms.com or something.
Wow.
You can literally just search plant subscriptions.
Okay.
There are hundreds of them. If you like eucalyptus or succulents or any type of plant, really, they come to your door every month. So what size are they? Are they small plants? Are they growing in your home? So the eucalyptus is like a bundle. You can break them up in probably like 13 little pots. So I have them all over my house.
Oh, okay.
So they come in all different shapes and sizes. They last different amounts of time depending on much care you give them.
Don't do this. Buy the fake plant if you don't have a green thumb.
I have a green thumb. I grew up on a farm, so plants are my best friends. I'll come home and be like, hi guys, how are you doing?
Oh, okay.
So they're great. They're
I don't, and I have like the fake herbs behind my sink, and everybody's like, "Are those real?" I'm like, no, I can't. They'll die.
Smell them. You tell me.
They will die. I'll spray them. Yeah.
Yeah, plants are great, and also when you are staging your home to be sold, or you feel like you're hosting a party and you really want to make people feel welcome, plants offer that little bit of extra support. They just have
you just have plant friends or something. Yeah.
It's true. But plants just really help your home feel alive.
Okay.
So it is just a great touch to have them all over your house. A fresh bouquet during an open house, or fresh plants in the bathroom is a really great place to put them.
Okay. And so I have kind of a selfish question because there's room in my house that I'm trying to figure out what to do with now. And when you are sort of overwhelmed by a room, where's the best place to start in terms of, okay, I'm going to get this one object and then I can kind of see where everything goes from there? Because I feel like maybe painting first isn't the best idea when you don't know what else you're going to put in that room.
True.
So is there is there sort of a way that you should kind of layer your style?
Yeah,
like
so let's say you want to start with your bedroom. Because you spend, I heard more than half of your life sleeping. You want to I always say make your bedroom first when you're kind of designing your home, so that once that's done, you have a place to relax.
When you're trying to design
let the
everything
stress
else.
out.
Yeah.
Yes. So I always say design your bed first.
Okay.
And then design around the bed. because that's going to be the center of your bedroom, no matter what. So always like pick what your ideal, fabric's going to be, what your linens are going to be, what your pillows are going to look like. That way, all of the rest of the furniture will kind of scope its way around there.
Okay.
Same thing with the living room. Pick your couch first.
Okay.
Or if you're doing your kitchen, same thing, where you're going to be spending most of your time at the dinner table.
Got it.
And then kind of go from there. I always say try to paint first because it's just the most chaotic, messy thing to do. But if you feel like you want to pick your statement pieces first and then pick the paint later.
Okay.
A little plastic.
That's fair. I've always wondered that because I feel like it's overwhelming just to kick off, and then once you have something, you
just always think, where am I going to be spending most of my time?
Yeah.
And if it's like you read a lot, your reading chair.
Okay.
That's where you start, and then go from there.
And I'm going to surprise you with this one a little bit because a lot of people have those like 3-season rooms or 2-season rooms that they start opening up in the spring. Are there any sort of little tips for sprucing that up besides, everybody's got their wicker furniture or whatever in there, but if you're, for making people use it, because a lot of people won't, because it's just sort of there. Is there anything that you recommend putting out in a room like that to sort of encourage people to go out there?
For those kind of seasonal rooms, that's a great question. I would always go back to the linens. What does the upholstery, what does the linen look like? Because some of those rooms, if they sit for a season and they haven't been used, like you really need to go like this to all of the fabrics, all of the cushions, all of the carpeting, see what kind of dust has settled, what kind of condition they're in. Because those are really simple things that you can fix to make the room just feel fresh and kind of like the start of a new season.
Excellent. That's good. I like that. I like that opinion. And so in terms of if you are getting out of your home right now, if you're looking to sell, it's a huge market right now to sell your home in spring. Everybody wants to get settled before summer. Are there any quick tips that you have for those that are about to put their home on the market? Something that won't break the bank but can help get their home sold.
So the most obvious things that you'll hear all the time is, decluttering. That's what everyone always says. Try to
if it doesn't spark joy, right?
It doesn't spark joy. Unfortunately, like getting rid of things that are almost too uber personal. I hate to say it, I'm like, get rid of your family photos. It seems like a horrible thing to say, but you want that potential buyer to see themselves in the home and not see someone else. So that kind of also relates to something that I've already discussed, which is the bedroom. A buyer doesn't want to walk to a bedroom that seems like it has too much history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always say,
put away your weird stuff. Yeah.
Just get rid of the weird stuff. Refresh the bedding. Because if the buyer walks in, they're like, it looks like someone's been sleeping in here for a really long time.
The mattress dent is like
they get freaked out, But if it's like the feeling that you get into a fresh hotel room, you're like, I cannot wait to lay down in here. So if you can do that to your bedroom with fresh linens, those neutral colors, that home buyer is going to be like, I can't wait to buy this and lay down in this room.
And you can take it with you.
It's all
that kind of stuff. Yeah, especially with linens and things like that. You can just take them with you.
And it's affordable. It's like you're investing in the property, but you also are taking those things with you when you leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any other tips for I know you said one of the ones that you sent me was the floors, which is a lot of people, a lot of people it's a last-ditch effort, but I think it should probably be something, either refinishing them or changing them altogether.
Yes, that's a big one. So I'll just kind of relate to a personal experience. We purchased a home back in November, and it was all wall-to-wall carpeting. I thought that was going to be a huge, expensive task. But surprisingly, with just a little help from some friends, we got the carpet up and we installed a brand new floor for under $1,000, which was great because it totally transformed the room.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to sell your home, I would recommend getting rid of all the carpeting, especially if it's wall to wall. It holds a lot of odor. It's very dated, and it will kind of holds a lot of dirt. So if you can tear up those carpets and put down an affordable floor. I mentioned lumber liquidators in my website. You can finish a whole floor for under $1,000, and it will go a long way when you're selling a property in the market.
Okay. And then in terms of bringing the whole room together, where's your favorite place to shop for those little accessories for your home? If you're going to go out and say, I really need a vase, or I need just a little something to put on this shelf, I mean, where will we find you exploring?
Sure. So I know I always want to try to do my best to promote some, sustainability and just recycling. So I would always try to start with your weekend yard sales. To be honest, they're starting to pop up. It's spring, it's summer. If you come down to Newport, you will find some amazing stuff in these old homes.
Nice.
I bet. Go there, you can find some great quality pieces for like $5 and nothing, fresh paint, some new hardware. You can find some amazing stuff. Other than that, I am a home goods shopper.
Yeah, of
I
course.
love it there. It's so great.
Who isn't?
But Etsy is another resource if you're super busy and you don't have time to do the yard sales, go shopping. Etsy is a great place to find recycled goods, but also some really unique artwork.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times they'll be pretty reasonable with shipping too,
Exactly.
if they're in the local area, and now you can sort by that, which is nice. So.
Yes.
Pretty great. Well, we could talk forever about all this
I know.
stuff, but Mariel's been nice enough to put together a style guide for the GoLocal viewers, so we'll link to that in the write-up. It's got all sorts of really great ideas and explanations for this year's trends, so we'll make sure to link that, and you guys make sure to check it out because it's got a lot of great information. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I really appreciate
and hopefully, if not doing earthy tones and black and white paint, it's inspired you to redo something in your home for the spring. I mean, you got to do it. You got to open the windows, let the air out, and refresh one of the rooms in your home. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everybody for tuning in today. In the meantime, check out GoLocalProv.com for all your news, and tune in to Kate tomorrow at noon for news and politics. And I will be back on Tuesday next week with a new showtime at 3 p.m. to talk all things lifestyle. And until then, have a great weekend, everybody.